that he's got 125 followers on Instagram, 568 followers on TikTok. Well, I'm going to give him some content for his social media today.
A MAGA influencer arrested for human trafficking.
We met the president, Donald J. Trump, baby.
The man himself, man, the legend.
I can't wait for you wokesters to see that picture of me smiling with them pearly white teeth.
That's right, man.
You know, he moves in big circles, even with the president.
We're learning new details about law enforcement's undercover operation, taking this anti-woke content creator offline and into a jail cell. This is Scandal, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Gillespie.
I think that we've had a pretty successful society so far. Just because you're mad that you're a woman doesn't mean that it hasn't been successful.
This is 41-year-old Craig Long, a husband and father of 2 sons, a fitness business owner, and self-described MAGA influencer based in Tampa, Florida. Long has gained a huge platform for sharing right-leaning, anti-woke commentary on hot political topics, earning nearly 1 million followers across TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook.
There's thousands of people out here on the White House lawn enjoying the Easter roll. Why y'all ain't out here? Man, people love Trump. This is MAGA country out here, man. Y'all see that?
He's even met President Donald Trump on more than one occasion, most recently in April at a UFC event in Miami. And he also happens to be a big supporter of law enforcement, posting a viral video defending police action against violent protesters.
In case you didn't get the memo, Grady Judd is going to lay it out real clear for you. You don't get to ride around with your convoy of cars impeding law enforcement from trying to do their damn job. You don't get to drag law enforcement from your car. You don't get to try to ram law enforcement with your car, a 2-ton car at that. Then cry wolf, cry victim when the consequences show up at your door.
And now, the Polk County Sheriff is using those same words to call him out in a press conference.
We like the fact that he likes the cops. Heck, he liked them so much, he got caught up in a sting and got to be up and real close with the cops. We asked what his attitude was. He said, he had a great attitude. He appreciates law enforcement. Well, there you go. Got arrested in a human trafficking sting. Influence that for a while.
So how does an influencer at the top of his game suddenly end up as a defendant in a 266-person human trafficking sting? We're looking at the police report from the Polk County Sheriff's Office, spilling key details about how this all went down and what we know about Long's past that adds another layer to this shocking case. Let's get into it. Now, this all begins on April 21st. According to the probable cause affidavit, an undercover operation was conducted by the Polk County Sheriff's Office, targeting subjects soliciting prostitution online. And as part of this operation, police said both female and male detectives posed as escorts and customers, which are known as Johns. So here's how it worked. The female detectives posted fake ads online, offering themselves as escorts. And then the male detectives replied to these fake ads inquiring about their services. And this drew in real potential customers into their trap that was set up at an undercover location. And here's what the police report says happened next. An undercover detective was working in an undercover capacity and had posted multiple ads as an escort on multiple web pages. While doing this, she was contacted by a subject later identified as Craig Long II. The detective and the defendant arranged for the defendant to arrive at the undercover location to pay $100 for, quote, something quick. The defendant advised that he would have come for a full service, but needed something quick. So according to police, Long allegedly contacted one of these undercover detectives, posed as an escort, for a, quote, quick service at the price of $100. And on the surface, it looks like it's a done deal. Quote, at approximately 9:59 p.m., the defendant arrived at the undercover location, at which time the detective made contact with him. Upon the defendant entering the room, he confirmed that he wanted something quick for $100 and specified he wanted the undercover detective to start with oral sex. The defendant then provided the detective with $100. According to police, about a minute later, the takedown team arrested Long without incident. The report says that Long was read his Miranda rights and he did not want to answer any questions without his lawyer present.
How come men will only help women if women give them their bodies?
What is she talking about? I mean, for real.
At the scene, Long was charged with soliciting prostitution and was booked into the Polk County Jail on $1,000 bond. And according to his court docket, he posted that bond the following week. Now, under Florida law, a first-time offense can carry a maximum penalty of up to 60 days in jail and a $500 fine, along with mandatory conditions such as 100 hours of community service, STD screening, and completion of an education program on prostitution and trafficking. A driver's license suspension could also be imposed upon conviction. And it's hard to grasp that an influencer of his caliber, especially one that publicly stood by police, is now being publicly accused of breaking the law. But according to the sheriff, this isn't his first rodeo.
He was a previous felon who straightened up. Really what we want to see in life.
On Long's Instagram bio, it also says, quote, Second Amendment rights restored with ex-con in parentheses. Now, it's unclear what those other criminal charges consisted of, but it was something that appeared to be in the past until the most recent incident. Now, we know Long has entered a written plea of not guilty on this charge, in addition to a demand for discovery within 15 days from the state. And according to his court docket, a pretrial conference is now set for June 4th. Whoa, there's a lot to unpack here. Definitely some colorful allegations, to say the least. So let's bring on a colorful guest to break them all down. It's criminal defense attorney Mauricio Padilla, friend of Scandal. Mauricio, thank you for coming on. And okay, I'll just ask you right from the start, what are your thoughts of these allegations?
Well, first of all, I think I read that he was offering $100 for the sex act. I mean, is it 1970s? What is that? I don't know the price of sexual favors nowadays, but that seems pretty low. So it seems to me maybe that guy's a cheapo. I don't know. Listen, pretty much Grady Judd put him on blast. If it wasn't for that press conference, I don't think anybody would have heard about this. So he's the one that definitely, put him on blast for whatever reason. But now everybody knows about it. Whether or not his affiliation with Trump has anything to do with anything, I mean, yeah, like whatever. He may have donated to the guy's campaign and come out in a picture with him, but I don't know what that really has to do with what he's charged with or with the story. But at the end of the day, Grady Judd loves likes and he loves attention. So this definitely generated some of that for him. And that's why he put a picture of this gentleman that got arrested with the president and the president's son, et cetera.
Yeah, okay, that was going to be one of my questions, because the reason that anybody would know about this man, Craig Long, prior to this arrest is that he kind of had a pretty big following on, like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of the social medias, because he was a far-right, anti-woke, what would you call him, influencer. And I'm wondering about this now because people are, of course, pulling up his videos, looking through everything that he's posted in the past. But is that relevant? Could any of his videos or TikToks or whatever be used in court, or is it just not even relevant at all?
Yeah, I don't see the relevance at all. It's basically going to be like, is that you in the video offering $100 to an undercover police officer? Ooh. That's the case. Like, quack, quack. Because if it's you, you could do like, it isn't me, the video's defective, the video's AI, but, if it's an undercover and you're offering her money on video, that doesn't seem like a really defendable case. But listen, but it isn't the biggest case. It happens all the time in every city, okay? And then whether or not it's a human trafficking ring, well, I mean, it's a misdemeanor prostitution charge. That's one way of saying it. Another way of saying it is the word human trafficking is what Grady Judd used in his conference. This is somebody that offered money to an undercover that he thought was a prostitute. Happens every day in every city in the United States. But in this particular case, this sheriff decided to make it part of his little show, which is what he does. I mean, that's basically, they elect him there in Polk County. I have been traveling to Polk County my entire career, over 20 years. It's getting worse. It's riddled with meth addicts. So I don't know if Grady Judd thinks that his little comedy skit works for crime prevention, but in my opinion, I don't think it does. And I think maybe they should focus more on actually preventing crime than mocking people and trying to get likes and laughs on on YouTube, which is pretty much what he's doing.
Yeah, and I mean, in our world, the true crime world, Grady Judd is very famous. I'm sure that some of our viewers have seen, obviously, if they're watching this episode, we have clips from his press conference. There have been many others where he does very similar things, where he puts these people on blast. He has their photo. He says, this is what they're accused of doing. Can you believe it? And you're right, it is kind of akin to an SNL sketch. Some of the allegations that these people face are very severe. But again, it's an interesting tactic that he takes. And I mean, he is drawing attention to the case. You and I are talking about it today. And one of the things you mentioned is it's kind of tricky to defend something like this, because if we have video of our defendant here offering the $100, I mean, if you were defending this case, how would you even do it?
Simple. Like if this gentleman has a prior felony conviction but hasn't been arrested in a long time, like I believe that Grady Judd himself said that he has straightened his life out, usually they'll offer you some kind of pretrial diversion program, community hours, community service hours, whatever. You resolve the case, which is what's going to happen here. At the end of the day, you either resolve a case, meaning you come to an agreement, you get it dropped because people don't want to cooperate or something like that, or you take it to trial. A case like this is not the type of case that you would ever take to trial, because you're just walking your client down the plank. There's no like, if at the end, I tell my clients all the time, and if you want me to convince a jury of something that didn't happen, I mean, it's my work is already cut against me. It's not the easiest thing to do.
Right. If they have this video evidence, how are we going to say, sometimes the defense could be, it wasn't me. I have an alibi. I was at the library. I was at the grocery store, whatever. That's probably not the case here. We can't say that it wasn't me whole situation. However, I do want to note he has pleaded not guilty right now. I know you said that this likely won't go to trial, but does that make sense that he would plead not guilty from the offset, and then they would kind of work on litigation and figuring it out maybe in a plea deal?
Yes, because you always plead not guilty. No matter what in the beginning, because you don't want to exclude your client from discovery process, from looking at the evidence. So yeah, everybody pleads, not guilty. A lot of the federal cases that I do in Puerto Rico, my clients are like, no, they want to plead guilty at an initial appearance. I'm like, listen, I understand that, and I've had that situation where a magistrate will tell the client, listen, I understand that, but for now we're going to just say you're not guilty, so that you can get the evidence, you could review the evidence, and then you can make an informed decision with your attorney, which is usually what everybody should do.
Okay, so that's likely what's happening here right now is the discovery process. We've talked about this video that, of course, the investigators in Polk County have, but I'm wondering about going through his phone and things like that, because, of course, the way that this was all set up was a sting operation where, sheriff's deputies or detectives, whatever they may be, their ranking, they pretended to be escorts, and they had this site where allegedly the defendant, reached out, hey, let's meet at this meeting place. So is all of that valuable information the digital side of things? Would they be going through all that now?
I mean, listen, they have the evidence of the controlled call, right? That they have that. So they don't need his phone for that. Could they have taken his phone right there on the spot and said, hey, listen, give me open it up? And he may have done so, maybe. In my experience, in these cases, they don't take the time to do the type of forensic investigation that you're referencing. That happens in violent crimes, because that costs money, right? So like for wherever it is, the city of Miami, Polk County, for them to be sending your phone to get analyzed is something that costs money. And in a simple case like this guy that's offering $100 to an undercover, I don't think it really justifies that. But they totally could have asked him to open it up, and they totally could have screenshots or stuff from his phone that they want to use against him. But the controlled call is enough. Like, I'm a police officer. I was working. I was undercover on this day. On this day, I made this phone call. I recorded it. This is the call. Boom. And then it's him negotiating, what he wants to do, how much he wants to pay, etc.
Oh, yeah. And I keep going back to what you said at the beginning, the $100. I mean, I'm not super well versed in the price exchange for anything of this sort, but the $100 really stood out to me for him propositioning this undercover agent for oral sex. It's an
Yeah,
interesting number at the very least. I guess we have to talk about it. And okay, so you made a good point. I mean, on Scandal, on my show, usually I'm talking about murders. So of course we are. That's the most severe crime, right? You're going to go
right.
through all of, the journals, the call log, the texts, everything. To your point, maybe we don't need that here. It seems like the prosecutors already have a really strong case, but I'm wondering too, because you mentioned this, it's not a slap on the wrist. I mean, this is a charge. If he's convicted of this, he could face, some time, some fines, some whatever. But I'm wondering if he was so, I guess, blasé about this. Like, yeah, I'll pay you $100 for this, oral sex situation. Is it possible that he's done this in the past and just hasn't gotten caught?
I mean, look, hey, if I had to speculate, I would have to say yes for sure because, he's doing it. He's offering very little money. So what happens is people that are involved in this type of behavior, they probably have other addictions or at the very minimum addicted to sex and this type of behavior. I don't know if that's nowadays an actual addiction. I think they removed it, but it's still like a mental thing that people have to deal with in engaging in this, paying for sex, living a lie because apparently of the many things that Grady Judd said, he said that the guy was married. So,
Yeah.
he put him on blast for that. So now the guy has got to deal with, are you in an unhappy relationship? Why are you going out of your marriage? Why are you engaging prostitutes? These are things that the guy's going to have to deal with. And those are things that, in my opinion, are like more severe than the criminal case. I mean, this is like slap on the wrist in any city, pretty much, because at the end of the day, listen, it's not something that it isn't human trafficking. It's a guy propositioning a prostitute. It happens all the time, and then it's unfortunate, but it seems to me like we would probably have to deal with the root cause. Like, can you ever do away with sex for money in this world, in this country? Are the laws that we have against it? Because I'm from Miami, and there's strip clubs in Miami where people walk in and they're propositioning you for sex, and they're humongous and they're owned by companies that are publicly traded, and everybody knows it. So, and I think that those types of situations happen in most cities where, yeah, we have laws that are against prostitution, but then there's places that flagrantly engage in prostitution, and we all know it. So that's you got to figure, is it working? And then again, I go back to, is Grady Judd's little comedy routine working? And as somebody that's been visiting Polk County for 20 years, I'm going to tell you it hasn't, because it's getting way worse. It's zombie land over there.
And I guess that's another one of my questions, because when I saw the headline for this case, I was like, oh my God, human trafficking ring? Like, that is huge. That is, terrible. It could be violent. There could be underage people who are being held against their will, because I know I've done stories like that in the past. I'm sure you're familiar with them too. But then when I kind of zoomed in closer, I was like, okay, in the case we're covering today, no one ended up having sex that was for money. I mean, he, propositioned or solicited a prostitute that didn't turn out to be one, but there wasn't, a young child who had been kidnapped and was forced into sexual slavery. It wasn't the same thing. Right. So I guess, we've talked about this a little bit, but do you think it was fair to come out and say, okay, there were 266 people who were arrested in this human trafficking sting? I mean, I don't know that it necessarily was human trafficking. What are your thoughts?
It wasn't, but they love to do that. They know the words that get the clicks, and at the end of the day, that's what he wants. He wants views, he wants clicks, he wants votes, and people there vote for him. They're still voting for him because, I don't know, 20 years ago, a cop killer got shot, and somebody asked him, why did you guys shoot him 20 something times? Oh, because we ran out of bullets. And, he's still riding high on that comment. So I think he figured out early on in his career that when I do certain things to get likes, clicks, and things of that nature, people are going to hear me. People are going to listen to me. And listen, one thing is clear in Polk County, they love that guy. That guy's been there for the longest time, and I don't think he's going anywhere. They love him there, and, listen, they get who they elected. But from somebody that's been visiting there for a long time, I don't see how that place is getting better. I think it's getting worse. I think people that live there know it's getting worse. And at some point, I don't know. I don't see how the comedy routine is really working when it comes to effective law enforcement. But yeah, listen, I'm used to that. Another thing is places like Polk County, I feel like if law enforcement has a certain grasp on local media, like in Miami, the media is what it is. Like, you can't really control it. You can't have them ignore a story, because you have multiple news channels that are out there looking for stories. I feel like in Polk County, if they want to squash something, they squash it.
Yeah, and that can be hard too, because I mean, we, like, for my job, for example, I cover all over the country, even the world, international stories sometimes. So I see the biggest headlines here. So if there's something that's kind of under the table that hasn't been publicized, how am I going to know about it? Because I'm not in these little counties across the world. I'm seeing the biggest headlines that are out there. And
Yeah.
I mean, that can be kind of a different issue. This story, I think, to your point, you said something earlier that I think the biggest thing that our defendant in this case, Craig Long, is going to have to face is the repercussions of, because he is married, what is his relationship like? He is a father, all of that. And then this is just an opinion question, but he did have a pretty big following in terms of, you know, his social media presence. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are if that's going to be affected here, because prostitution is generally, you know, a nonpartisan issue. Do you think he's going to lose followers? What do you make of his livelihood, the future there?
Yeah, I don't think what I think is going to happen. I think he's going to increase followers because the algorithm doesn't know. The algorithm, all it knows is that we're talking about him. All it knows is that people are searching his name. Like before this interview, I Googled his name. I'm not the only one. And the algorithm knows that. So at the end of the day, if people are talking bad, if people are talking good, as long as they're talking, I think he's going to benefit from it when it comes to his viewers, TikTok. And at the end of the day, he's an influencer that what he does, you know, personal training. What does his morality have to do with it? You know, I mean, in today's day and age where we have politicians that are flip-flopping and doing all kind of craziness, I don't think anybody's going to care about what Mr. Long is up to, you know, personally in his life.
Yeah. And to your point, I mean, we mentioned this in the episode, he could face a fine, maybe some jail time, probably. And it's honestly, it's rare to do a scandal episode where no one was hurt. I mean, maybe his wife, his kids, I'm sure there's an emotional toll, but it is honestly refreshing to do a story where no one was physically assaulted, no one was murdered, nothing like that. I mean, it is an interesting story to talk about at the very least, but I mean, it brings up a lot of other political avenues and things to discuss. I mean, I do think, Mauricio, I think you were the best person to have on, the best guest to have on to talk about this
Thank
case.
you.
Because
Listen, I just don't know. Also, I don't know. Also, if these cases, okay, so he had this press conference where he's saying human trafficking, 243 people were arrested, but if you factor in how many hours of law enforcement went into this, because that's another thing, like, is it worth it? How much money did you have to pay all your detectives and overtime and all this to arrest 240 people for you know, a crime that's arguably victimless or not, you know, and is it worth it? Because you have other crimes, horrible crimes brewing in the county. So are you just doing this for clicks, or are you doing this to make Polk County a better place?
yeah, it really begs a bigger question here. Are you doing this, you know, for the betterment of the area, or, you know, like you said, just for clicks? I don't know.
For clicks,
I guess
yeah.
it's one we're going to have to keep following, see what happens ahead in Polk County, because, you know, there's going to be another press conference ahead. Mauricio,
For sure.
thank you for coming on with us today, though.
Thank you so much.
And that's where today's episode of Scandal leaves us for now. If you like what you saw and you want to see more or connect with me on social media, you can find me on places like Instagram at Sierra Gillespie. Thanks for watching today's episode of Scandal. As always, I'm your host, Sierra Gillespie, and I'll see you next time.